My guest in a moment, calling Donald Trump a sore loser and a powerful takedown of his former friend. Geraldo saying in part, and I quote, "If you are a Republican, Donald Trump has made a liar of you. He has coaxed and intimidated tens of millions into pretending he was reelected in 2020 and that the election was stolen. Former President Trump is a sore loser who cannot be trusted to honor the Constitution. That is why I am voting for Kamala Harris to be our 47th president." Geraldo Rivera, now with News Nation, is now out front. And so, Geraldo, there it is. You are voting for Kamala Harris, and you lay out the reason why there, the Constitution, the fraud of the stolen election. Is this a vote for her, as you think about it, Geraldo, or against Donald Trump?
That is an excellent question, Aaron. It's delightful to be with you. Thank you very much for inviting me. When I think of the Kamala Harris vote, I think of Joe Biden. And the Biden administration was reasonably successful in my view. Not perfect. They did a lot of things that were awful, like paying no attention whatsoever to the southern border. It's come back to haunt them. The withdrawal from Afghanistan was awful. 13 lives lost unnecessarily. But generally speaking, the economy, the relationship with the world, the functioning of our own government, things went along pretty well under Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. And I have every expectation that she will continue his good work. Bidenomics, they don't use that term very much anymore. But the fact of the matter is that inflation has been almost stopped. There's been, the employment situation has improved. Things are pretty good under Biden. They'll be hopefully pretty good under Kamala Harris. On the other hand, I think Donald Trump really represents, I really do think that in Kamala Harris's words today, that he is unfit. I mean, the fact that he made liars out of millions and millions of people, I ask my Republican friends, and of course I'm still a Republican, I ask people, how in the world can you pretend to believe that the election was stolen when there's no evidence of that whatsoever? How can you delude yourself? You make believe you should choke on this. It is absolutely so false. This is the man that unleashed the riots that invaded the Capitol of the United States. He tried to strong arm the vice president of the United States into jigging around with the Electoral College.
And what do they say?
He really is a sore loser.
What do they say when you?
Everyone says, it's a greater good. Whatever. If they go so far as to admit that they know that they are not being completely candid with themselves, honest with themselves, to that extent, they see it as a marriage of convenience to be for Donald Trump. Many of them are high-end people who, are happy about the tax situation under Donald Trump. He will, reduce taxes for the high-end taxpayer. Things of, self-serving reasons that I, maybe have gone along with in the past, I refuse now. So President Trump and I have been estranged since very shortly after the last election because of his refusal to admit defeat. Yes. I worry what happens next. What happens if he loses, I worry, and if he wins, I worry.
So, Geraldo, you talk about you've been estranged since after the election. And look, this is personal for you. And you waited until after the election. And I'm not saying that critically. I'm saying that because you had a friendship with him. You have a friendship that goes back almost 50 years, right? So there were times when things happened where you did support him and defended him in dark moments before the two of you stopped speaking. And I just wanted everyone to hear, some of the things you said so that people understand how personal this is. Here you are talking about him.
I consider him a friend of mine. I think that he's done some great things.
I love Donald Trump. I still feel that he doesn't have an ounce of racism or evil or hatred in his body.
I'm very proud of the way he has conducted himself as president-elect.
So, Geraldo, that was 2020 in the first one, 2017, and then 2016. I play that in the context of this. How hard is it for you to come out against a longtime friend, as you have chosen to do so, because you think it's important, so publicly?
It's not only, Aaron, that he's a longtime friend. I also think he was a pretty good president. And I think that his term in office is largely underrated. He did a pretty good job with China and with the economy, with tariffs and so forth. He did getting through the pandemic was extremely difficult. I mean, Russia bamming with that fake Russia tampering with our election. I was proud to call him my friend. I'm proud of the times that we spent together. Every time the phone rang here in the House and the president was on the line, it was excitement, even though my wife, Erica, did not appreciate, she's a Democrat. But what he did in the wake of the 2020 election is unforgivable, and we can't lose sight of that. He tried to distort the constitutional process. He tried to strong-arm the Republic. He tried to, with Mike Pence, to make Pence be more loyal to him than to the Constitution of the United States. He is a sore loser, and he would not be trusted. He could not be trusted with honoring the Constitution. The one thing we had going with every other government on earth was our tradition, multi-century tradition of the peaceful succession of government. One president to the next, to the next, to the next. And he called into question that very foundation stone of our democracy. And to me, that is, Aaron, unforgivable.
So, Geraldo, you've been watching him, and you've known him for a long time, and you've known him in a personal way. You've seen him campaign. You've seen him as president. So there's been a lot of focus on whether he has changed this time around. The New York Times did the whole analysis, right, of how long his speeches are, the words he uses, all of this. Last night there was that town hall. It was cut short. 2 people had fainted and needed medical help. So it's understandable, of course, it was cut short. But as he finished the town hall, he then stayed on stage for nearly 40 minutes, and he was sort of swaying to the music, looking out at the crowd, and then, just a playlist kind of went through. Harris' campaign reacted, Geraldo, by saying, quote, hope he's okay. Snark there. Democrats were quick to question his mental acuity. But I just put that out there as an example from yesterday. I'm curious, Geraldo, as you watch him now and listen to him now, knowing him for a long time, do you think that that's fair? Do you think that he has changed?
I think he has changed in this regard. When I said in the clips that you played, it was fun to take a trip down memory lane. But the clips that you play where I said he didn't have an ounce of racism in his body, that I based on my personal experience in Trump Tower, seeing who worked for him and how he responded to people, how he responded to people in a very personal way on the street and so forth. What has changed is he came, I see it now, clear as day, he came to the realization that if he were to demonize undocumented immigrants, if he was to make the other the touchstone of the election, he could drive a train right from that ambition and that realization all the way to the White House. He did, and now he is doubling down on it in a way that is so scary. The way he speaks of Latino immigrants is so blatantly racist. It is intolerable. Poisoning the blood of our country. It's in their genes. I firmly believe that murder is in their genes. Who's he talking about? Is he talking about me? Is he talking about my dad? Is he talking about my children? I think that it is unforgivable, intolerable, and flat out stone cold racist. And I don't use that term very often because I think it's misused and overused. But you cannot otherwise explain how a guy who was generally speaking, a moderate kind of, I didn't even know whether he was a Democrat or Republican in the days when we were coming up together. I saw him as a charismatic figure, a very sympathetic figure in many ways, larger than life. It was so fun, but this is not fun. This is not fun. The division that he has sown is not fun. It is in so many ways, it's really sickening, Aaron.
All right. Well, Geraldo, I appreciate your taking the time. I'm glad to talk to you again. And thanks for sharing this.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
All right.